Good morning, everybody. It's a Wednesday edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. It is October 26th, 2022, and I got a lot to get to today. Coming up later, I'll talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, their game tonight, and what the future holds and just how good are the Cavaliers. Are they as good as most of us think they are, or are we overrating them because we are homers? We will get to that throughout the day. When we come back, though, in just a few seconds, I want to do a deeper dive into the Browns and decide, almost like the opposite of what we're talking about with the Cavaliers. In fact, yesterday for the podcast, I said my headline was Cavs on fire, Browns a dumpster fire. Are either of those true? Or was that hyperbole by me? Now that I've had an extra 24 hours to think about all of it. Let's get to it. Are things as bad for the Browns as we think? Are things as good for the Cavs as we think? I'll dive into both of those things, starting with the Browns, coming up here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
A lot of gloom and doom when it comes to the Browns. I've been a big part of it. I screamed and yelled about the Cleveland Browns for 11 years. I've done a whole lot more yelling than I've done celebrating. And that makes sense. The Browns, for the most part, have been a bad football team since I moved to Cleveland on August 18th, 2011. And went on the air for the first time in Cleveland on August 29th, 2011. And in the 11 years and nearly 2 months that I've been here, well, a little more than that, nearly 11 years and 2 months that I've been on the air here, I've seen, you've all seen, more losses than any football fans should. You know, despite that, it's remarkable. It really is. I'm gonna give credit because at times I yell and scream. I get mad at some of the fans when they're homers. I get mad at some of the fans when they're over the top critical, depending on where I'm at with the team, right? Because that's what I do. My job is to give opinions. And it's not just my job. I shouldn't say my job is to give opinions because that's true, but that's my life. That's what I do. When I talk with friends that I've met in Cleveland, friends that I met in college, friends that I met at my last job in New York, friends that I've had since I'm a kid. My oldest friend, I mentioned him a week or so ago, Andy Robbins. We were just talking. His birthday was the 17th. I mentioned that. We were born in the same year. He's a few months younger than I am. And we grew up on the same block from the fourth grade on, but I knew him even before that because our parents were friends. And so even before I moved on to the block that he lived on, I'd known him since, I don't know, kindergarten, first grade. We've been friends, but we've been good friends for over 40 years. He's really my only friend that I'm still close with from before high school. And yet we will have our arguments about sports, and we'll debate opinions, and he doesn't root for the same teams I do. We grew up in New York. Of course, as many of you know, I grew up rooting for the Bengals and the Cubs and St. John's basketball, so I did have one New York team. I didn't really have a favorite team in the other sports. I kind of liked the Celtics when I was a kid, but, I was more just kind of into the Celtic-Laker thing. And my friend Andy was a Steeler fan, or still is a Steeler fan, the only Steeler fan I can find that's not too obnoxious. And there's a few of them. And he's a Mets fan as well. He also didn't have a favorite basketball team. We were baseball, football guys, and I loved college basketball as a kid. So the reason I bring it up is because, sometimes I argue, a lot of times I argue, right? And sometimes I can be a little mean. I don't mean to be ever. Usually, I mean, I sometimes do if somebody's nasty to me, but sometimes I can be a little harsh. And, after living here 11 years, I realized that I've brought my New York attitude, or maybe it's not a New York attitude. Maybe it's just my attitude. I don't know. To Cleveland. And I think I've said before, I consider myself a mutt now. I mean, Cleveland is part of me. Ohio is part of me. The other day, my wife and I were deciding where to go for dinner. I'm kind of rambling here, but stay with me. I hope I'm interesting you enough. Interesting you? Keeping you interested? I don't know. Vince Cellini will grammar check that for me, hopefully. But anyway, we were deciding where to go for dinner, and my son was going. We were dropping my son off somewhere, and my wife and I were going out for dinner later that night. And my son said, "Well, why don't you go to Longhorn Steakhouse for your anniversary?" And I said, and we've gone to Longhorn Steakhouse a couple of times, and generally I'm not a chain food restaurant, especially for steak, because I can be kind of snobby, as some of you know, when it comes to food. As much as I eat, I can be snobby, believe it or not, about where I eat. Right, but we went to Longhorn Steakhouse, and it was good. The food was good, solid food. And I jokingly said to my wife, "Man, if we go to Longhorn Steakhouse for our anniversary dinner, that's like then we have fully immersed as Midwesterners, and we have to trade in our New York card forever." And I'm just kidding. Listen, plenty of New Yorkers eat fast food. This idea that if you're from New York, you're snobby and you only eat from frou restaurants. That's not true. I mean, some people are like that, but there's, we always think of cities as, I'm really all over the place, but I don't know. Just stay with me. It's really, it kind of sucks. As some of you know, I delve into the political realm. And stay with me here, because I'm not going to rip the other side or do any of that. It really, it's so pathetic. I saw a tweet from someone who was just being so nasty, and I said to myself, and it was somebody who believes different than I do politically, and I said, that's awful. And then my second thought was, you know what? Our side's just as bad in that vein. We spend so much time on social media, being away from each other. We're on our phones. We're on social media. There's no interaction, right? And there have been times where I've gotten together with people who believe differently than I do on political things. And it's been perfectly pleasant. We may not agree on everything, but we can at least be cordial. I'm sure down deep on many issues, the truth is probably we agree on what the result should be. We just disagree on how to get to that result. And unfortunately, so many of us, myself included, have gotten so extreme in our anger. Fix my hair up a little bit. So much can be done. That we just don't listen to anybody else. We're too busy yelling at each other. We're too busy saying the other side is idiots and morons and this and that. And I don't know. I know nothing I say is going to change, and it might not even change me. But I don't know. I just woke up this morning thinking, and it's really early. So maybe that's why I'm rambling. I'm recording the podcast. It's at the moment is 6:25 a.m. Wednesday morning. Hopefully I'm not waking up my family right now, who can get a little more sleep. And I don't even know how I got to this point, but I'm just kind of sharing thoughts early this morning. So, all right. So it started as, I have no idea how I've gotten to this point. I went from one sidebar to another. I know this started off with me talking about arguing with people. Then it became Midwesterner. I don't know. Well, in terms of that, I mean, like, I do think of myself as a half Midwesterner, like a half New Yorker and a half Midwesterner. Oh, I know where I was originally going. So it's like, and this has to do with politics too, but also really just fans. Like we often say, oh, New York fans are obnoxious, or Boston fans are obnoxious, or these fans are stupid, and these fans are bad fans. And, the truth is that most people on a one-on-one basis, whether they're Democrat or Republican, whether they're a New Yorker or a Clevelander or a Texan, whether they're a man or a woman, whatever they are, most people, I believe, or I choose to believe, as cynical as I can be, I do believe that most people on a one-on-one basis, if you get to know somebody without prejudging based on these things, oh, he's from New York, he's a jerk. Oh, he's a Republican, he's a jerk. If you really get to, now some people are so extreme that you probably can't be helped. They're not nice people. But I really believe that 90% of people out there, no matter where they're from, no matter what their background is, no matter who they are, no matter what religion they are, or race, or political party, or sexual orientation, whatever. I could go on and on and on. I really believe that most people down deep are good people and want a lot of the same things, but again, maybe disagree on how to get there. And maybe we'd get to these places if we stopped screaming at each other and telling each other how awful we are and started talking, and maybe, from a politician perspective, stop wanting to make the other side look bad, or stop wanting to not let the other side get credit, and maybe just help the people. But I'm not going to solve that issue, all right? Maybe I'll change one mind and make somebody a little kinder. Maybe I'll make myself a little kinder. I don't know. But I do believe, because somebody tweeted at me yesterday and said, oh, because, and this, I will finally get this back to the Browns. But somebody tweeted at me and said, oh, Browns fans are such idiots. And this was a Browns fan saying this. And I said, the reason Browns fans can be idiots is the same reason Jets fans can be idiots. It's the same reason Giants fans and Texans fans and Rams fans, if there are any, and Lions and on and on and on. We can all be idiots sometimes, but that's in a way a good thing, as long as it doesn't turn into like physical violence, right? That's when it crosses the line. But the reason we can all be idiots sometimes is because we love sports. For many of us, myself certainly included, what the hell would our lives be without sports? We are so passionate about our football teams, our baseball team sometimes, our basketball team sometimes, that it clouds our better judgment. Often, right? Sometimes it leads to us saying things about the team or the players or our fellow fans or sports talk show hosts or sports talk show hosts about fans or other fans as if they're pieces of garbage. And it's crazy. Like calling somebody a name, and I've done it. I'm guilty of it. And I will continue to try not to, even though I know I will still do it sometimes. To name call, to threaten, to insult people because they have a different opinion on a team or root for a different team is crazy, right? It's crazy. When we all think about it in a like right now at 6:30 now in the morning, I'm very calm. I'm doing a dissertation this morning, apparently. I don't know. I don't even know the definition of dissertation, to be honest. I have an idea of what it means, but I don't know the textbook definition. But I'm really chill right now. I'm so chill, I just use the word chill. I don't know if that makes me more or less chill. But I'll stop using the word because it's a little awkward for me to say it. But I'm so calm that I can say, oh, yeah, calling somebody an idiot because they think this about Terry Francona or they think this about the Browns is really stupid. Somebody saying I'm trash because I have a different opinion on the Guardians or the Giants or the Jets or whatever it might be is ridiculous. And I think on a one-on-one basis, when we talk to each other, we know that. Now, good-natured ribbing, chop busting, you know what busting, going at it, having a good, friendly, healthy argument. These are awesome. These are what sports are all about. Talking a little trash, as long as you don't make it personal, which we all do sometimes. Not all. I do. Probably some of you do. Probably not all of you, though. Making it personal, turning someone's opinion into a judgment of them as a person or in their judging their character, stupid. I shouldn't say we all. Many of us, myself included, have done that. So when somebody says to me, oh, the Browns fan base is stupid or the Yankee fan base is arrogant, and I've said that. A lot of Yankee fans are arrogant. That doesn't make everybody bad people, all right? And when I talk to my New York friends, I talk about how much I love Cleveland, because I do. When I talk to my Cleveland friends, I also talk about how I loved growing up in New York, and I did, and I'm proud of my roots, and I loved growing up in New York. I wouldn't trade that. I don't have any desire to live in New York right now as a 51-year-old man living in Cleveland with a son and a family. I like where I live now. I wouldn't move now. Because I'm happy here. So being a New Yorker and being a Clevelander is part of who I am. And I'm proud of both parts of me. And I think most of the people in New York are great people. And I think most of the people in Northeast Ohio are great people. I think there's jerks in both groups. As a group, we can be bigger jerks than we are individually. The group mentality on anything, politics, sports, religion, whatever, can be ugly at times. But as individuals, I think we're all mostly good people. That's what I choose to believe. I hope you do as well. Now, so I finally, after 17 minutes here, will bring it back to the Cleveland Browns. And I'll do it in just a second. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football. Not being football. You could be a football if you want, for Halloween maybe. But for betting football and the start of the new basketball season, which of course is now, we're a week in. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So my long-winded way of getting back to the Browns has finally gotten here. When I look at where the Browns are and I stay calm and emotional, I think things are not as bad as they seem. And if you made it through to the 18-minute mark of the podcast, if you're still with me here, you're probably saying, I waited all this time for you knucklehead, to say it's not as bad. My team is 2-5. We got a quarterback that's suspended for 11 games. Our defense stinks. We hate the coach. We hate the GM. But things are not as bad as they seem. In the heat of the moment, coming off a loss, things we're more emotional. And I'm not trying to convince you that things are great right now. I'm not foolish. At least most of the time, I think I'm not. Things are not great at the moment. And it's hard sometimes to look at the bigger picture when you're a fan of a team that has let you down way more often than it's picked you up. As a fan of the Guardians have given you, now they ultimately haven't won a championship in forever, but they've given you many more seasons where they have exceeded expectations, and very few seasons when they've disappointed, at least in the regular season. For the Browns, it's the opposite. Most of you who are certainly my age or younger, but even for a lot of years for most of you, that are my age or even older, the Browns have either had no expectations and didn't surprise, or had some level of expectations and disappointed. That's been the case more often than not. Now, obviously, they had the year with Derek Anderson where they had a great season but didn't go to the playoffs. Not too long ago, in my time here, they got off to a great start with Brian Hoyer. They were 7-5. I remember being on the radio after they won their 7th game. And with 4 games to go, I said, Browns are going to the playoffs. They didn't win another game that year, as all of you know. And then, of course, so in the end, that you can't really look at that year as a positive. It was for the first 3 quarters of the season. It felt like it was going to be, and then it fell apart. And we know what's happened here in more recent years with Hugh Jackson getting fired, the team playing better with Greg Williams. Then they hired Freddie Kitchens because it was the offense that played better. Freddie Kitchens was a disaster. Kevin Stefanski gets the job. And eventually he gets to the playoffs. But since winning that playoff game against the Steelers, beginning with the playoff loss to the Chiefs, the Browns have gone 10-15 in their last 25 games. And so we're all asking the question, and there's a lot of scary questions right now when it comes to the Browns. We're asking the question, many of us are, is Kevin Stefanski the right coach? And is Andrew Berry the right GM? I think those are fair questions to ask at this point. And they're scary questions to ask. Because if the answer is no, then there we go. We're back. Hold on. There we go. We're back. Sound like I lost my mic. I don't know if I actually did. So the reason those are scary questions, is Andrew Berry the right GM for the Browns, and is Kevin Stefanski the right head coach for the Browns, is that if the answer is no, then where do you go? See, Jimmy Haslam has been the owner of the Browns for a decade. And since he took over ownership of the team, and I remember at the time a sense of optimism because the previous owner, as we all know, did not have success. And we thought, okay, here we go. This guy's got a lot of money he's going to spend, and the Browns are going to turn it around. And they haven't. They've gone to 2 playoff games in his decade as ownership. They are 1-1, and they have lost, as I said, 2 out of every 3 games they have played. That is a major failure. If the answer is no to Andrew Berry, if the answer is no to Kevin Stefanski, well then in a decade, the owner of the Browns, who was immediately raided by the FBI, his business was when he first took over, has had one controversy after the next, has had some off-the-field issues with players, has his son-in-law working in the hierarchy of the front office, which, you know, always is a bad taste in everybody's mouth when unqualified family members get jobs. But from a football perspective, he had his grandkids on the field while Kevin Stefanski's coaching the end of a game, which, you know, good organizations, that's not happening. Jimmy Haslam, through 10 years, is got to be considered one of the worst owners in the NFL. And generally, teams with bad owners don't win. They certainly have trouble, at the very least, sustaining success. There may be blips of success, but having sustained success with a bad coach, a bad owner, is very hard to do, if not impossible. Now, can bad owners get better? I guess. Are there some positives with Jimmy Haslam? Not many. He has been willing to spend. But again, going back to the question of, is Kevin Stefanski the right coach? Is Andrew Berry the right GM? If the answer is no, then in a decade, Jimmy Haslam has not made one good hire. Because all his previous hires were not good hires. So if these guys aren't the right guys, and he fires them again, why would anyone believe that after a decade of making a mistake every time, that all of a sudden in year 11, that Jimmy would finally get it right. So I think there's a tendency from some people to hope that Kevin Stefanski is the right coach and that Andrew Berry is the right GM. Because if the answer is yes, then Jimmy finally got something right and the Browns have a chance. Now, I think at this point, we all rush to judgment, myself certainly included, in what I do for a living. I like making opinions because I only give opinions that I truly believe. I never give an opinion that I don't really believe. I may have a stronger belief in one opinion than the other. Contrary to popular belief, I am willing to change my mind as I get more information. And as every game is coached and every year passes by, we get more information about Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. Now, I believe that the majority of head coaches and GMs are adequate. And if you get some luck, you do well. If you don't, you don't. I think there's a few head coaches and GMs that are great. Not many. I think there's a few head coaches and GMs that are terrible. Not many. And I think most of them are somewhere in between. And at the moment, that's where I think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are. They're in that large group of in between. Now, that's better, okay, than what the Browns have had before this. Everybody else Jimmy Haslam has hired has been in that rare bad category. It's hard to keep putting people in the bad category. And I still have promise for Andrew Berry, and I still have promise for Kevin Stefanski to maybe get into that excellent category. But I can't put either of them there. That wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be fair. They haven't proved that. One playoff win, even for a franchise that hadn't won one in forever, doesn't put you in the great category. There are plenty of flaws that we've gone over with Kevin Stefanski. But I still have hope. I still believe Kevin Stefanski can be the right guy. I'm not 100% convinced, but I still believe he can, and the same for Andrew Berry. And 3 years in, I couldn't say that for any other coach and GM combo. I think if nothing else, it's good that they're on the same page. But they don't have much longer to turn it around. They'll probably get a chance with Deshaun Watson. And I think he will be the thing that turns around this franchise. And that's why ultimately things are not as bad as they seem. I do think there's a level of underachievement on this team on the defensive side of the ball. I think a lot's been made about the play calling on offense, especially on our TV show. I think it's been overblown. I think the offense has overall played as well as it can through 7 weeks, considering their quarterback. I think the defense has been awful, and the special teams has been awful. But I think there's talent there. I think it's time to make a coaching change at DC and special teams coordinator. I think you need to shake those up. Maybe it doesn't come to the end of the season, but I can't start next season with either of those guys in those positions. I think Kevin Stefanski must make that move, and then he must get this team clearly on the right track by next year. There will be no year 5 if Deshaun Watson and the Browns don't go to the playoffs in year 4. Because it's not happening this year. So this year, they're almost definitely not going to the playoffs. I think we're going to have to live with that. As much as that sucks, as much as waiting for next year sucks, don't burn the whole house down here. I say stick with the head coach and the GM. Give them a full season. Give them the end of the season to get Deshaun Watson up to where he needs to be. And let's see what this team can be next year. Because I think, despite all the moaning and groaning, despite all the complaining about play calling, some of it fair, some of it not, I still think this offense can be very, very special in 2023. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but that's my calm approach to this situation. Quick break, and I was going to do more on the Cavs. I don't have a lot of time. I'll save some of the things I was going to get to on the Cavs. I was going to talk about, obviously, are we overrating the Cavs early in the season? And I'll talk about that more tomorrow after they play. Because I just went really long on my initial rantings and ravings about other things. So quick break, and then some quick thoughts on the Cavs next. Cavs in action tonight. Like I said, tomorrow we'll talk more about just how good are the Cavs. I don't think they're over. I don't think we're overrating them. I certainly don't think the general NBA public is overrating them. I think they're being rated fairly. Tonight, the Cavs are at home, second home game, fourth game overall. Obviously, they've won 2 in a row. They are an 8-point favorite at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, a 7 p.m. start against the struggling Orlando Magic. The Magic have started the season 0-4, and they're coming off a loss to the Knicks by 13 points. When was this game? I don't even know when they played. Anyway, they lost to the Knicks in their last game. So you think the Cavs will take care of business at home. But on tomorrow's podcast, we'll talk about that game specifically and about the Cavs in general and just how good they can be in this 2022-2023 NBA season. A lot more on the Browns tomorrow as well. Make the picks for Thursday Night Football also. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Adam the Bull. I'm sure most of you are already. If you're not subscribed already to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, please do so. If you don't know about it, where you been? Streaming live on YouTube every weekday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Myself, Jay Crawford, and G. Bush every day. Joined on Mondays and Friday. Well, now it's Monday. We've switched it around a little bit, but Brad Sellers is on with us twice a week, Mike Polk twice a week, and our buddy Tyvis Powell now is coming on twice a week, Jason Lloyd on twice a week, and Tim Couch is on once a week, and Leroy Horde once a week, and DeQuell Jackson once a week, and Aditi King-Walla twice a week, and David, our fantasy guru, once a week, and on and on and on. It's a who's who, and Mikey McNuggets, and Anthony, and Earl, and all the guys. Director Steve, executive producer Steve. We love them all. Join the team. Be part of it. Become a super fan. And you know, we're having a lot of fun with that. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, of which you can find this podcast as well, please do so and hit the bell. So every time my podcast comes out, you'll get a notification. Every time we do a live broadcast, in addition to our regular show, we, of course, as many of you know, do Browns post games. We did Guardians playoff post games. We'll do some select Cavs post games. We're doing a Ohio State post game this Saturday after their game. So, and then, of course, the Browns on Monday night. So check that out. Check me out on my website, adamthebull.com, and on Cameo at Adam the Bull as well. You can hire me through my website, too, for speaking engagements and stuff like that. Happy to do these things. Anyway, that's it for me for now. I'll talk to you tomorrow right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.